Hey everybody, it's Glen Whitten. Welcome back to the Talking Realty podcast. And this is the final stop on our summer travel/vacation tour for the podcast. First up, let's see what our flat fee sellers did this week. We had a total of 2 closings for the week at $740,000 in home sales. Total commissions saved were $23,878 for an average of $11,939 per listing compared what they would have paid if they used a 6% realtor. Now, what would you do with an extra nearly 12 grand? You could have the sickest yard decorations in the whole county. But first, you got to go over and check out what we're doing over at OhioMLSFlatFee.com. So today we're jumping back to one of the most requested and thorough episodes we've ever put out. This is the Open House Playbook, aka how to create urgency, competition, and offers using a well-timed, short, strategic open house. So this episode has aged very well, but a few quick updates before we jump in. First, we now strongly recommend open houses during a handful of key moments. One is the first Saturday or Sunday, one or the other, not both, after you go live, after you launch. I don't care what day of the week you launch. Hopefully it's not a Saturday or Sunday, but maybe a Monday through Friday. Announce an open house for the next Saturday or Sunday. Short. We'll talk about it in the episode. The other time is immediately after a price change or after a listing refresh, like new photos and a reset of some sort, or right after a rebound if your last deal fell apart and you're coming back strong, which we just covered in last week's episode. The other thing I want you to know is that the complete open house playbook, along with the sign-up sheets, checklists, whisper campaign scripts, everything that I talk about in this episode is now part of the free Ultimate Home Selling Toolkit. That's 90 plus pages of done-for-you, downloadable library resources to help sellers save time, avoid mistakes, or walk away with more money. Hopefully all of those things. You can grab it right now for free at the YouTube comments and the show notes, or head over to talkingrealty.com. And third, the industry's only full-scale digital course on prepping your home before you sell, living to listing, is now just $29 for lifetime access. Check the show notes, grab it today. If it doesn't pay for itself, just let me know and I'll pay you back. So look, folks, before we jump in, I know some agents still say open houses don't work, but let's be real. If your price is even close to right and you follow this playbook, a well-run, strategically scheduled open house can spark a buyer feeding frenzy that leads to multiple offers and top dollar. Oh, and in case I forget to say it, never, ever, ever hold an open house in Ohio when the Buckeye football team is playing. It probably won't ever change that rule. But anyway, so back by popular demand, here's episode 31, the Open House Playbook. Enjoy. Home sellers, since my first day in this business, I've been hearing myth after myth. These are little self-serving lies that traditional agents love to tell. You know most of these if you've been around for any length of time. What's even crazier is that even in the face of contradicting evidence, agents still pass these down as though they are gospel. Not anymore. I am waging a one-man war on the BS, the lies, and the myths. I hope you learn a few things, maybe even have some fun. So stick around and buckle up, because up first, myth number 1, open houses are a complete waste of time. Hi, and welcome to Talking Realty, the go-to podcast for home sellers looking to make more money, save time, and avoid headaches. Whether you're selling a flip, a new build, an income property, or the place you call home, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Glen Whitten, 20-year realtor and founder of the Ohio Property Group. Selling a home can be a complicated and costly process that leaves sellers feeling uncertain and overwhelmed. At the Ohio Property Group, we empower sellers with the tools and help they need to successfully reach the closing table while keeping a lot more of their money in their pockets where it belongs. To learn more, head over to talkingrealty.com to pick up our monthly newsletter or any of our free home seller tools. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Now, let's get to it. Home sellers, lately, I have been thinking a lot about these phrases that have been getting tossed around for probably a century or more. Maybe not quite that long, but definitely for a long time. It's like old lore. These are things that get passed down from agent to agent. And whether they're truth or not, Agents love to perpetuate these little pithy little phrases. I don't know if these agents actually believe them or if they are just blindly accepting them because they've been passed down from generation to generation of realtors. Either way, I'm going to tackle a bunch of these in this new series, which I'm calling Real Estate BS. And the first one I'm attacking has to do with open houses. Traditional agents absolutely love to say that open houses don't work. That's because, as usual, they're looking at it from their perspective, not yours. If you do things right, an open house can create urgency, can spark competition, and even help you gauge how well you did with your pricing. So today, let's break down how to use open houses as a secret weapon in your selling strategy. Let's start at the beginning, at least for me. I want you to picture it. Winter of 2000. A young but promising rookie is spending his first day in the office as a licensed realtor. So this was a really exciting day for me. So for weeks, I was in real estate school, waiting to sit for the exam and then waiting for my exam results. So I had all this time where I hung around the office making no money, but learning all I could from the experienced agents. So I needed to hit the ground running. When the mail showed up with my test results and subsequently I could get licensed, then I could start working, then I could start to make money. So a little bit of a snapshot into my first few days or months, as it were. During that time, I would do anything anybody asked me to do. So I just hung around. I shadowed. I listened to phone calls. I went on listing appointments. I went to showings. I went to open houses. Either way, I didn't care what they were doing. If it had something to do that could take me closer to my goal of making money in real estate, I was there. I was about 30 at the time, so I hadn't just fallen off the turnip truck, but I had fairly recent memories of falling off the truck. I had a few miles under my belt from my retail days, but either way, it was a long winter and I wasn't making money and I didn't have a license. So all I could do was shadow and watch and absorb and decide. And so I'm not sure what this is, but the older agents who have this rookie tagging along with them, they just love to throw these pearls at me. Some I knew were just complete and utter garbage when they came out of their mouth, but whatever. Eventually, I learned that these pearls of wisdom were actually 100% organic bullshit. So, for example, take today's topic. For 2 months, I sat in the office and listened to agents telling their sellers that open houses were a complete waste of time. So you've got your house listed with this agent, nothing's happening. And what you'd like to see as a seller is some action, some activity, some tangible evidence that your agent is trying to sell their house. Well, one of the ways you could show your seller what you were doing was to have an open house. So a lot of sellers were bugging agents to have open houses. I heard this question over and over. And universally, agents were telling their sellers, oh, you know what? Open houses are a complete waste of time. If it's a serious buyer, they're going to set up a showing and then we're going to go from there. But open houses are for tire kickers. Open houses are for looky-loos, for nosy neighbors. Okay. Then, miraculously, the moment I get licensed and I have nothing to do, these listing agents start telling me, starting with my broker, that open houses are the greatest thing ever. So, why the change? Well, it's all a matter of perspective. During my training period, the listing agents didn't have time or maybe the desire to host open houses. And if they had more than one listing, they certainly couldn't sit in all of them on a weekend. So rather than hold an open house or two and have those sellers see it and then have to answer that question on Monday, like, well, why did you do it for them, but you won't do it for us? They just said, no, it's terrible. So as I got licensed, the game changed for them because now they had somebody who could sit in those open houses. So now they're trying to convince me, oh man, you trying to get your business off the ground, you need to go host an open house. And boy, do we have some listings for you to host some open houses. But in order to get this eager, young, promising rookie to go sit in these open houses, they got to first convince me that it's not a complete waste of time. So they kind of have to eat some of their words, walk them back. There are exceptions to this. Some listing agents are one of these do-it-all agents. They will take any business they can get. When a listing agent hosts an open house, very often, it's because they're trying to build their buyer business, which is exactly what I was going to be doing here shortly. It's a matter of perspective. But if a listing agent has a bunch of listings, they probably don't want to work buyers. But if the listing agent is also looking for buyer's agents, then it works. Then they can go and they'll placate their sellers. And odds are they probably don't have very many listings if they're also taking on buyer clients. So it all balances out. In the beginning, they'll do anything. When they get a few listings, a lot of these listing agents, they don't need the buyer business anymore, so they don't want to host any more open houses. And rather than say all of that to a seller who doesn't care, they just want to sell their house, they'll just tell them it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work, but it sounds a lot better than I can't do it or I won't do it. But in my model here at the Ohio Property Group, our sellers host their own open houses, which means they can have them as often as they want. They can have them every night. They can have them every weekend. Doesn't really affect us if that's what the seller wants to do. But for a listing agent, they're not going to want to set a precedent that they do open houses, because then they can't tell everybody else that they don't do open houses. In the beginning of most realtors' careers, if you're going to survive in this business, you have to specialize. So that's what I did. I went in to specialize in one area, which was buyers. Since I was working with buyers and I had all these eager listing agents with all these listings that wanted open houses, I'm set. I can now go out and sit in a listing and have actual buyers walk in who are looking to buy a home. Being in a home that's for sale with a buyer looking to buy is not a bad situation for you to be in. So now I'm sitting at the open house, and I learned a lot about how to run them, though. You sit in enough open houses, you're going to learn some stuff. And surprisingly, I had just come from retail, and a lot of what works in retail also works at an open house. It's kind of like a sales floor when you think about it. Very, very similar to an open house. So my banter was easy. I didn't seem nervous, and you kind of get that sense of when to talk and when to walk away and all that good stuff. So one thing I learned very quickly is that if in every activity in real estate has a goal, and if you know the goal, you can reverse engineer the process to deliver that goal far more often. So I started the open house process with the end in mind. One of the 7 habits of highly successful people is that you begin with the end in mind. So before my first open house, I thought to myself, what do I want? I want some sort of contract. I either want them to buy the house, that's one type of contract, or I want them to sign up with me as their exclusive buyer agent. That's another contract. So that's what I want. I start every open house, I want a contract. But as a seller, you'd like one buyer, maybe hopefully more than one buyer, to want that house so you can start a bidding war. Truth 11, and we did a whole episode on this, nothing motivates a buyer like another buyer. When a real buyer comes into your open house and sees another buyer, they perceive them as competition, and their interest immediately goes up. Now, whether or not it will reach the level of I want to write an offer on this house remains to be seen, but it will definitely create that fertile ground like I was talking about earlier. You're in a house that you're selling and a live buyer is there. And if you've got more than one live buyer there, there's a good chance that if one of them shows even the slightest interest, it will have a domino effect on the other buyers in the building, which is why open houses are not a complete waste of time. They are, in fact, a great way to start a bidding war. The reason why that works is because FOMO, or fear of missing out, is real. We were lizard brain people for eons before we became these highfalutin thinking people, but that lizard brain is still going back there. It's still doing its job. Its job is to conserve calories, to make sure that we are safe, to make sure that we are secure. Maslow's hierarchy, the food, shelter, and clothing. You've heard that before. Well, shelter is a basic human need. And when you start to talk about humans looking for their home for themselves, for their family, you are juicing a part of your brain that is way more powerful than the rest of you. And it can take over in a heartbeat. And all you need to do to trigger that is to tell your lizard brain or have it notice that someone else is looking at your house, and your interest will go up immediately. And that's what we're shooting for as a seller during an open house. So how do we create this environment where I can make sure that one buyer sees another buyer, or maybe several other buyers, and they're all interested, and boom, everybody wants to hand me a bag of money? Well, stick around. I'm going to tell you how that works, because we can do this. My standard caveat, it doesn't matter how great these techniques are. If your house is overpriced, they're not going to work. So if you try out one of my techniques and they don't work, you can make fun of me. I'm fine with that. But I would probably challenge you that your house is not priced correctly, because here's the thing. If it is priced correctly, you could do almost everything else wrong and it'll still sell. But if it's overpriced and you do everything perfectly, you're far less likely to get a buyer. All right, so get that out of the way. The other thing I need you to remember is that there is an opposite of Truth 11. Nothing motivates a buyer like another buyer. And I don't have a truth number for it, probably should, but nothing demotivates a buyer. Nothing turns off a buyer like a desperate seller. If buyers think nobody else wants the house, they're going to be less interested, opposite of what I just told you. And if a buyer smells that you, the seller, are desperate, they will make the leap that no one else is interested, which is why you're desperate. If a buyer gets a whiff of desperation, it is over. They're not going to pursue it. If they do happen to pursue it, it will be at a much lower price, and they'll be far less likely to make it to the finish line, even if they do get you to a contract. Part of that is because when a buyer feels like they're the only one interested, they kind of feel like they might be a sucker. Like, why is nobody else interested in this? Nobody wants to be that person. Couple that with a desperate seller. Not good. But if there's a buzz around the house and it's got other people in it, it's on. This is a good thing. We may have thousands of buyers cruising your listing online, but they don't know about each other. That's why Zillow started showing views and saves and things like that, because they're trying to foster competition. They want to be known as a place where, hey, you put your house wherever you want, but if you put it here, it's going to sell. And that's one of the many, many ways they try to accomplish that. Well, a much easier way to do that is to get them all in the same room. How about that? That's why we do our patented BFF. The buyer feeding frenzy is actually an entire playbook on what to do with a listing when it first comes out. I'll summarize it for you, but I'm pretty sure I've done an episode on this, but I know it's in my book. So check that out. I'll link to it in the show notes. But the buyer feeding frenzy is essentially a brand new listing. You delay showings. You can do coming soon, or you can just block showings, depending on what your rules are in the MLS, because not all of them offer coming soon and not all of them look too kindly on delaying showings. But anyway, if you can do it, you want to delay showings, maybe just a few days. So kick it off on Wednesday or Thursday. Don't let anybody in that building. Don't let anybody in your listing until Saturday at noon. And then Saturday from noon to 1, you're going to have your first open house, and hopefully your only open house. And if you want to really juice it up, then put a big sign on your sign that says coming soon, open house, Saturday, noon to 1, and then make sure it's advertised everywhere on the web. But before the open house, we advertise it everywhere. We have balloons, we have directional signs, we have a flyer box, maybe some social media posts. Maybe we do some live before, during the open house. We want to generate buzz. And since no one can get in, we're kind of building that wall, that dam, and its pressure is building behind it. So to help you out here, I'll tell you what, I will publish my open house checklist. It'll be in the show notes. So you can download it for free. You can modify it any way you like. But anyway, so now we've done all these things. We've got this circus-like atmosphere. And before the open house, this is what I love about this. People are going to park, again, assuming you're priced even reasonably close, people are going to park outside of your property, and they're all going to be looking at each other. This is like dogs at the park. They're looking at each other and they're thinking, boy, there's a lot of people here. And instantly that lizard brain starts to wake up. And maybe if it's really nice, they even get out and look around, like they physically get out and walk. Well, that has nothing to do with looking at the house. It looks like that's what they're doing, but I promise you what they're doing is they're checking out their competition, AKA other buyers. It's great because all of this stuff is happening naturally. You didn't have to do anything other than what's on the checklist. And all of this is going down, mind you, before anybody has seen the inside of the house. So you have really set the stage for a buyer feeding frenzy. This episode of Talking Realty is brought to you by our friends at Associates Title. They are shaking things up by focusing on what truly matters, putting the customer first. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing for sale by owner, or working with a realtor, they've got your back with incredible cost savings and the latest tech to streamline the process. Their secure online portal keeps everyone in the loop, from buyers and sellers to lenders and agents, all while keeping your critical data safe and communication crystal clear. If you're getting ready to make a move, do not underestimate the importance of having a great title company on your side. Check them out today at associatestitleinc.com or call my friend Ryan Phillips at 614-419-2418. Don't leave your title company choice to chance, and definitely don't let the buyer or their agent make your choice for you. All right, back to the podcast. Once they get inside, yes, they're looking around at your house. They're probably not paying much attention to you, especially if there's a lot of people there. They're paying extremely high levels of attention to all the other buyers. Everybody's looking who's going to make the move, who's going to be the one. They see maybe one partner grab a partner's arm and they've got that quick intake of breath, or the ooh, or the oh my gosh, we can start placing furniture, or this is Billy's room, or all of that stuff. It all gets registered, and the lizard brain is getting more and more awake by the second. That open house could turn into Black Friday in a second. Not today Black Friday, but I mean like old-timey Black Friday, back when people, ran each other over with shopping carts and fought over bedspreads. Those were the days, by the way. I mentioned that you could go 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. I got a classic error. I see a lot of new listings come down the pike, and they schedule Friday from 5 to 8. Then they schedule Saturday from 1 to 6, and then they schedule Sunday from noon to 6 or something. I mean, these are just crazy. And they spread everybody out. They spread them all out over 3 days thinking, this is great. I'm going to get this huge parade of people in here, and I'm going to have this massive bidding war. And the problem is you are diluting your traffic. This isn't COVID, where we had to do those things just to get everybody through the house. Even during COVID, we didn't have to do that, but a lot of people did. So what I'm saying is, just because you can have a lot of open houses doesn't mean you should have a lot of open houses, particularly long ones. You are diluting your traffic. You're much less likely to get a crowd. If you allow buyers to set up showings before your first open house, you're diluting your crowd. And frankly, you need your best buyers to see other buyers. What you want is a bottleneck of buyers showing up at your first open house and seeing each other. So just try this. Delayed showings, short first open house on Saturday, noon to 1. And if it doesn't work, then set up your 12 open houses for 6 hours each. And they won't work either, because the reason your first one didn't work is because you were overpriced. I know none of you saw that coming. If you schedule one from noon to 1 on the first Saturday that you're open, you'll do well. I'll tell you why this works. So you're a buyer. Every seller just forgets that they're not operating in a vacuum. So I'm going to ask you, like I very often do, is to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. You got to look at everything through your buyer's glasses. You're hanging out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You're looking for a house. You're probably tracking homes on one or more websites. You're getting alerts. You're doing searches. You're hanging out while you're watching TV. You got your phone in your hand and you're checking out new listings. And these websites are awesome because they're sending you emails, text messages, push notifications. They're in your face because they want you on their website. So when a new listing drops, you're probably going to get, as a buyer, a handful of notifications. New listing, new listing, new listing. And if it's even remotely close to what you're looking for, you're going to look at it. You're going to save it, you're going to view it, you're going to maybe forward it to your spouse or whatever. Well, then a day or two later, they announce the open house. You're going to get another set of alerts. This is great. So now you've seen this house quite a few times, at least twice, probably way more than twice. You might have even taken a drive by and you see the sign. It says coming soon. You see that there's an open house on Saturday, noon to 1. Okay, now we're piquing interest. And remember, I'm not the only buyer. There's other buyers doing the exact same thing. New listing, it's in my price range. I can't see it until Saturday at noon, and then only for an hour. Yes, I could call my agent, so I do. Hey, can you get me in there? Oh, you know what? No, not until after the open house. Oh man, in the back of your buyer's brain, you're going to think, what if it sells at the open house? Oh no. Okay, so this is another point in your favor. So you've got all this interest being built. This is the pressure building behind the dam. It's probably not the only house you're looking at. So you're going to kind of plan your weekend a little bit. We're going to get up, we're going to run some errands on Saturday, and then we're going to start going to open houses Saturday and Sunday. Well, one of the listings that you really want to see now is only available from noon to 1 on Saturday. All the others are open for 4 hours, 2 days. You can go see them basically anytime you want. So they're going to get pushed further down the list. Yours has urgency and has scarcity. two things that are powerful in selling, two things that work directly with your lizard brain buyer to get them to do things like make crazy offers. This is what we're after. If you have these wide open houses for the whole weekend and you allow showings before your first open house, all of that diluting is going to cost you real money. Could even cost you the whole deal because maybe you don't get enough buzz to get a buyer to take the leap. But because it's new, because it's early, and because it's scarce, buyers are going to put it on the list. If you're later, if you're longer, and you've got multiple open houses, they're going to maybe come to you first, but probably not. They're going to go other places that are scarcer and shorter windows. And they may get tired, or they may buy a different house, or they may get distracted. They may never get to your house because you left the door so wide open that they felt like they could go anytime. And then guess what? They didn't. And if they did go, they certainly didn't see a crowd. And none of this, by the way, is a theory. This is stuff we've been doing for years and years and years, and it works. If you're worried about the shortness of the open houses, the only pushback I get from my sellers is, man, it's just too short. I don't ever see open houses that are that short. I'm here to tell you that when I worked at RE/MAX, there was this agent in my office that ran what was called a Sunday tour of homes. These were 15-minute open houses. We'd do 6 open houses in about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. I don't remember. It was very effective. So even though it was only 15 minutes, it was great because we had a crowd. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you. It doesn't matter if you're doing shorter open houses. It will have that effect. It's just a leap of faith. I want you to go with me on this journey. So you're not going to do 15 minutes, but you could keep it short. And if you do, you're going to maximize your attendance. And if you don't get the response you want, i.e. offers, then wait a week or two. Run the 1-2 punch because odds are you missed on pricing. Make sure the advertising worked. Make sure you had your sign, your balloons, you ran the checklist I gave you. Make sure it was advertised on all the websites, realtor.com and homes.com and places like that. If you do all those things, and you don't get a crowd, you're overpriced. Okay, that's it. You've now tested every theory. That's all there is to it. So what you're going to do, all is not lost. You're going to adjust. You're going to lower your price midweek, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. And you're going to schedule another short open house on Saturday, noon to 1. And you're going to run this 1-2 punch every week or two until you find the price that suits the market. Because truth number 1, the market never lies, not ever. And truth number 2, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is that if it's not selling, it's overpriced, period. I'll fight you. Now, let me say, first of all, you don't have to do any of this stuff. If you host an open house and nobody comes and you're overpriced, but that's the price you want, as you know, I'm not going to complain, but I'm not going to let you complain either. Because if you want to hang out for however long it takes to get your price, I'll ride with you. That's just how it works. But you're not allowed to complain because the market hasn't caught up with you yet. It eventually will. I don't know when it will. Could be years. Don't know. Could be months. Hard to say because so much of that is outside of your control. Short version example, if 20 homes just like yours come on the market and they're cheaper than yours, guess what? You're not going to sell. But if every home like yours disappears and there's nothing available in your neighborhood for your price range, well, you just got more valuable. The basic laws of supply and demand. I can't control the supply, can't control the demand. What I can control is the price and the marketing. So in my case, for my listings, I don't control the price. My sellers do. That's my point. But anyway, assuming you want to sell, I want you to lower the price midweek, schedule another open house. If you don't get offers, we wait a week or two. Midweek, we lower the price. Everybody gets the announcements about the price. All those people that were tracking your home. A couple of days later, we announce the open house. All of them get more alerts. When you lower your price, you're doing 2 things. Besides all the alerts that are going out, you're reaching new buyers because every buyer has a ceiling that they set, a price ceiling. When you lower your price, you're dipping into people's ceiling. You're going to cross over some of these people who set a ceiling below where you were. Now they're seeing your house for the first time. If they saved your house or the website they're on uses retargeting, those buyers are going to be re-exposed to your house at 2 points. 1, when you lower the price, and 2, when you announce the open house. So you're getting all this extra whammy. New buyers getting alerts and old buyers getting reintroduced to your property at the new and improved price. All good things, which is why this works. This is why this is a calculated move. If either at your first open house or one of your subsequent 1-2 punches, you get significant activity, feel free to go one more step and set an offer deadline. Now, I did an entire episode on this, so I'm not going to belabor that here. I'll link to it in the show notes. But if you get good activity and you want to throw gasoline on it, set an offer deadline, a highest and best deadline. If you get less than what you want or you don't get any offers, again, wait a week or two, run the 1-2 punch. Eventually, you're going to find the top of the market range for your property, and buyers will wake up and get moving. I don't care how many of these you've done. I've seen this happen over a long period of time where sellers have adjusted tiny amounts or they're very slow to adjust. It doesn't matter how long the house has been on the market. Once they hit the right price, the market wakes up immediately. The market just jumps into action because now it's a value and we'll take it. It doesn't usually take weeks either. When you do the price reduction in the open house, usually within days or hours, we get a response that is favorable if we're now in the sweet spot. The only caveat I have on this whole thing, the short Saturday open houses, there's one thing you should never do in the state of Ohio is compete with an Ohio State football game. It is suicide. I don't care how hot your listing is. There's enough people who are going to stay home and watch the game. You're going to miss out on buyers. And truth number 6, more buyers equals more offers equals more money. So you don't want to break that cardinal rule. So if you're up against either an NFL playoff game that involves local teams, or like I said, God forbid, you compete with an Ohio State football game, just don't do it. It is a losing venture. It is suicide every single time. But one of the nice things about a short open house is that if it's a dud, you're not stuck there for a bunch of hours. I've done 6-hour open houses back in my rookie days. I got tucked into doing Sunday noon to 6 for a year. I won't go into it. We'll just say it was a poor choice on my part. But anyhow, having a short open house means that if it's a dud, you're in and out in 60 minutes. You haven't tied up your whole day. And of course, it's great feedback on your pricing. If you do your price reduction, announce your open house like I tell you to do, and then nothing happens and you're not up against an Ohio State football game, you missed. You're still too high. All right. You can wait, you can adjust. Your hand is on the throttle, not mine. The other cool thing about a dud open house is if there's other open houses going on, you now get to take a drive because you're going to close up at 1 when all the others are just getting started. And you're going to get in, you're going to drive around to some of these other open houses. And I strongly recommend you do this if you're serious about selling. Get into those open houses, pose as a buyer. I'm going to walk in just like a buyer, and I'm going to keep my ear to the ground. I'm going to listen to what people are saying. If they've got traffic and they're priced similar to mine, why? Why do they have traffic and I don't? What is the value that buyers are seeing that are causing them to pull over, get out, and walk in? So get into those. Look for anything that's like your house. Look for anything that's different, and do 2 things. I look for 2 things. I look for houses that are like mine, but are priced differently, above or below. And then I go the other way. I look for houses that are priced like mine, but maybe they don't look like mine. If it's priced like mine, that means that my buyers are out looking, because buyers typically buy on price first, style and other features second. Get into as many of them as you can. Take off your rose-colored seller glasses. All right. Most people who are selling want to immediately walk through a house and pick it apart. Well, this is better than that. My living room is better. My windows are nicer. Okay, that's not why you're there. You're there to see what's better about their house. And the only way you can do that is to accept that there might be something in there that's better because they got traffic and you didn't. And you can blame anything you want, and I'll take it back to price. But if there's a crowd, I would have no problem saying to somebody, hey, what do you think of this place? And if you're really bold, I need to say, hey, have you seen that one down on, and then insert your address? Like, hey, did you happen to walk through 1323 Main Street? No, we didn't. Oh, why not? I was thinking about doing that. Nah, it's this or that or the other. You're going to hear why buyers are avoiding you if you're lucky. So lots of benefits to a dead open house that's short. Getting out, seeing your competition is huge. I recommend this before you even put your sign in the yard. I think you should go to all your competition, one way or another, try to get into them. But certainly once you're up and running, this is a great time to do this. The other thing you're going to see in your similarly priced homes, things that are close to your price, is that there are actually buyers out and about. So you want to sit in your house that's dead, nobody coming through your open house, and you want to look for external factors. Oh, it's the weather. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Well, no, it isn't. Because why are they in everybody else's house? They get the same weather a block away. They get the same interest rates a block away. They get the same other stuff that's going on that you feel. Oh, it's back to school. It's the holidays. It's this, it's that, whatever. If other open houses are getting traffic and you're not, and you're in the same rough area and price range, you can't blame any of that other stuff anymore. So just like a reality check for you. So let's talk about follow-up. During your open house, assuming you follow my checklist and you get a lot of people there because you advertised it and you're priced correctly, you're going to have a sign-up sheet. So I'll tell you what, I'll post my sign-up sheet and you can either use it, you can just download it and steal it, or you can use it to kind of model yours. But this ain't rocket surgery, folks. It's essentially at the top, you're going to say, welcome to our home or welcome to our open house. Put your property address if you want, and then have 3 columns. First column is name, bunch of lines. Second column, email, bunch of lines. Third column, all the way on the right, phone, bunch of lines. That's it. Don't get fancy. Don't do any more than that. About half the people won't sign in, and half of the ones that do are going to give you fake information. But a few names is better than no names. When they walk through the door, I want you to greet them, but don't be creepy. All right. If they're the only ones in the building and the first people to walk through the door, I'm going to suggest, this back to my retail days, don't stare them down and wait inside the door like you're at a funeral. This is bad. This is a very bad vibe. What you want to do is look busy. This is one of my favorite things to do. When people would walk into, I sold pianos for, like I told you, pianos anywhere from 5 to maybe 50, 60 grand, realistically. You might only get 1, maybe 2, maybe as many as 3 customers a day shopping for pianos. So you can't waste them. And you definitely can't waste them by being creepy at the door. So what we learned to do was to look busy. I'd be on my computer. I would have a notebook. We use dusters a lot. We'd walk around with dusters, which you can do. All of these things you can do in an open house. But by having the customer walk in and kind of feel the space before you pounce, you're much more likely to open a real dialogue and not scare them off. So when the customer walks to the front door, look busy. I love to pick up a plant and just move it from one side of the room to the other all day long, just back and forth. And you just kind of greet them a little bit. Hey, I'll be right with you. If you're working on your computer, keep looking at your computer. Maybe look up for a second, catch their eye, and just like 1 minute. If you're watching me on YouTube, I'm doing the one finger up, like 1 minute, I'll be right with you, just like you would in a retail store. Right? Even though there's nobody else in there and there's no possible reason for you to be busy, this puts the buyers at ease that you're not going to pounce. So before they leave, well, they may walk up and start asking questions. So that's possible. But assuming they don't, just let them feel the space. You don't have to do a guided tour. Just let them feel the space. Right? If you're writing stuff in a notebook or working on your laptop or carrying the plant back and forth, finish that and then kind of catch up to them. Hey, you guys got any questions? You can ask them, what do you think? What do you think about the place? There's any number of questions you can ask to break the ice, because the one thing you have to remember is you're never going to sell them the house. That you can forget about that. There's no voodoo that you can say in an open house that's going to make a disinterested buyer become all of a sudden interested. Now, there are plenty of things you can say to an interested buyer that will make them not interested. We talked about that earlier, the desperate seller, the one that comes across as eager, the one that comes across as, well, desperate. It's the best word to use, so I'm going to use it over and over. But anyway, the only thing I would really say to a buyer in an open house after they've felt the space is, what do you think? Now, again, like I talked about earlier with the buyer feeding frenzy, if I see the whole arm grabbing or the quick breath, or you got the kids placing furniture, or you got somebody's, well, no, that's going to be my office. All right. These are all good signals. Calm yourself. Okay. Don't go crazy. Just, you're cool. You're relaxed, whatever. You get people in all day acting like this because you've got the best house for sale right now in America. That's your attitude. That's your mantra. That's your vibe, is I know this house is going to sell. It's just a matter of who's going to get it and how much they're going to pay for it. I know it's going to happen. So you can definitely say, hey, what do you guys think? You got any questions? Love that one. You guys got any questions? If they say no and they're out the door, forget it. Okay. Either they're super cool themselves and they're going to be back, or they're just not interested. And all you're going to do is throw water on it, because they may have an ember of interest, but your desperation and your creepy follow-up, your stalker-like attitude is going to douse that. So we don't want to do that. We want to fan that flame, and I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. What you want to know is, What do they think about it? Do they have any questions? Those are the biggies. They start asking questions like specifics about utilities or things that are unique to that particular house. Like, where's the closest ice cream shop? Now, that's something I would ask every seller if I were buying. But anyway, that's a good buying signal. And you're going to engage those. And there comes a point when they've asked enough questions, there's this kind of awkward moment. You feel it, they feel it, when you just be like, well, so you guys, do you want to make an offer? And you can try to close it at that point. And I'm a fan. I actually would have an offer sheet that kind of explains what they need to do, because people love clear instructions. So some sort of sheet that you can hand them, maybe put it on the back of the flyer. It says, hey, everything you need to know is right here. Send me an offer to this email, whether it's you, your agent, whatever, whether you have a fancy website where they can put in an offer, it doesn't matter. Our sellers, we give them that sheet, and then the buyer can just simply either call the number or go to the page on our website where they can submit a preliminary bare bones type offer. And then we're off to the races. So there's definitely that. But if they're not interested and they walk out, let them go. Okay, we're going to follow up with them anyway. Most home sellers dread inspection and appraisal issues. Our digital course, Living to Listing, teaches you how to turn any property into the perfect listing so you sail through inspections and appraisals and sell faster and for more money. In Living to Listing, you get dozens of online checklists, tools, and walkthrough videos from me for every step. And here's my promise. If this course doesn't do what I say it's going to do, if it doesn't meet your incredibly high standards, just let me know. Not only will I fully refund you, I'm going to let you keep the course. Just doesn't get any better than that. You literally have nothing to lose. So check out the free videos at livingtolisting.com. Let me know what you think. Now, back to the podcast. So anybody that signed in, once it's over, if nobody made an offer and you didn't get a giant bag of money right there, then we're going to follow up with everybody on the list, whether it's text or email. Do not call them unless they specifically said, call me. Do not call them. I want you to text them or email them. I prefer text, but if they didn't give you a real phone number and they only gave you an email and the email works, then use email. But if those are my choices, if I can text them first, I will. And here's what I want you to say. Hi, this is Glenn. Thanks for coming to my open house at 123 Main Street. Do you have any questions? And that's it. Stop. Restrain yourself. Lock your phone. Give it away. Do something. Smash it if you have to. Don't do any more than that. Okay? Any more follow-up than that, and it's going to get weird. And you're going to kill the interest. Desperate sellers drive away buyers. One more time. That's hi. This is Glenn, unless your name isn't Glenn. Thanks for coming to my open house at 123 Main Street. Do you have any questions? Full stop. Anything short of a response that says, yes, I do have questions, means they are not interested. In fact, most of them won't respond. If they do, it's something like, no, thank you. Unless they ask you a question or tell you they want to make an offer or tell you they want to come back and see it again, which is what real buyers do, let it go. We're going to save them. We're going to try them again later, but not now. And you're only going to do it how I tell you to do it, because I've watched sellers blow this so many times. Well-meaning, but desperate sounding. Okay? So stick with me. If you go crazy and follow up with agents and buyers, whether it's an open house or a showing, I get a lot of sellers make this mistake. An agent will come, show their house, drop their card. I have a lot of sellers who will immediately start texting and calling this agent. Hey, what does your buyer think? Are they wanting to make an offer? What do they want? You know what you're doing? You're screaming, I'm desperate and I don't have any other buyers. And you're just driving your price down, maybe even to zero, because people don't want things that other people don't want. And when you tell them by your desperate actions that nobody else seems to want it, you're only reinforcing it. Okay, so after your follow-up is done, you've done your one question. If they didn't ask any questions or they didn't give you a positive affirmative, yes, I want to see it again, or yes, I'd like to make an offer, then you're done. You've done your one offer, or you've done your one follow-up, and you're out. Okay, you're moving on, and we're going to save all these names and numbers for later. And not to beat a dead horse here, but I will take your phone if you do this. I have sellers who send this, and then hours later, when they get no response, are sending another one. Just making sure you got my message. Terrible idea. Or I'm just checking up to see if anything has changed. See if your buyer has any questions. Stop. I promise you, if they're interested, you will hear from them. They will beat down your door if they're interested. Let them be the ones that appear desperate. That's where you want to be. That's the power position for negotiating, is they're chasing you, not you chasing them. So if they shoot you down, it's not really what we're looking for. Sometimes you get that. Just thank them and wish them good luck. Hey, thanks. Best of luck on your search, and leave it at that. Because if you start doing things like, well, what should we change? Or, what would it take? You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Just thank them and wish them luck. Thanks. Best of luck in your search. When you are that calm and that withdrawn, that sends a message. You don't need them. If there's any ember of interest, it will start to spark. And that could serve us very well down the road. You don't know what their circumstances are, and you don't know what their circumstances are going to be. Maybe they've got their eye on another house and they're keeping yours in the back burner, but they don't want to tell you that. But maybe that other house gets away from them. Now, all of a sudden, yours rises to the top. If you haven't been a complete stalker, desperate, clinger, your house will go to the top of the list. Circumstances change. So don't kill it. Don't kill it with your desperate responses. So if you run the 1-2 punch and you have this open house, and you get an offer, this is when these other names and numbers are going to come back. We're going to do what's called a whisper campaign. I don't care how good or bad that offer is. I don't care if it's on a napkin or on a formal contract. I don't care if it's from a buyer or from an agent. I don't care if it's somebody who wants you to be the bank and they want to lowball you and promise you extra payments every month for the next 30 years. I don't care. If it's an offer, it works. So good offer, bad offer. If you get it, now you have an offer and you can leverage that information. So now you get to text or email all those buyers again, only when you get an offer in hand, even if it's one you're not going to accept. They don't know that. So here's what you're going to say. You're going to go back to them. You're going to email or text them the following. Hi, this is Glen at 123 Main Street. You came to my open house a while back or yesterday, whatever the case was. We're negotiating an offer, and I wanted to let you know in case you were thinking of making a move. Either way, best of luck. That's it. No follow-up, no making sure you got my message, no just checking in again, nothing. I'll read it one more time. Hi, this is Glen at 123 Main Street. You came to my open house a while back. We're negotiating an offer, and I wanted to let you know in case you were thinking of making a move. Either way, best of luck. And you're done. That line has been honed over years. We've tried every variation of it. That line works. If there's any spark of interest, Truth 11, nothing motivates a buyer like another buyer. Well, if they had that ember of interest and you didn't kill it with your stalker attitude, you send this a little while later, it's confirmation. Somebody else wants that house. It is instantly more valuable. We've had so many offers show up out of this where people are like, oh my God, thanks for letting me know. But I promise you, if you had called them the day before and just said, hey, I'm just following up, you have any interest in my house? Probably would have got nothing. But you send them this, the lizard brain takes over. Doesn't work every time, but it works often enough that it's definitely worth a minute or two of your time to send it. So if they're at all on the fence, your message could very easily kick them into high gear. Because people do want what other people want. It's human nature. Before you contacted them with this magic bullet, this whisper campaign, they assumed they had all kinds of time. They see your house sitting there, it's still for sale, it's becoming less and less interesting by the day. But now you're telling them the clock's ticking. Put them on the clock and watch them dance. Now, you may get a response that says, hey, good luck to you. Or you may get no response. Whatever, move on. You only need one other buyer to make this feeding frenzy take off. And remember, you didn't tell them this is a good offer. You didn't say it's a full price offer. You didn't say it's above list. You didn't say any of that stuff. You just said you had another offer. You were negotiating. That's all you said. And if people pick back at you and they want to know, the answer is naturally, I can't get into those details. That shuts it down. If they come back and say, well, how much is the offer? Or were they asking for inspections? Or what's their financing? Do they have a home to sell? They're going to ask, especially agents, they're going to ask all these questions. Your answer, the first question you get, your answer is going to be, oh, naturally, I can't get into those details. And that's it. If they keep picking, you keep saying some variation of naturally, I can't get into those details. You leave it at that. There's no good that's going to come from telling them. You could lie to them and say, well, it's above list price. You might scare them off. And you might have taken somebody who would have given you a reasonable offer and you sent them running. So I say there's too much gamble in telling another buyer what the first buyer offered. There's no reason you can't. I'm just saying it's not a good idea for you. You need to let their imaginations run wild. Let them think that they're the ones that need to step up, to give you your highest and best offer. I do get a few sellers. If we have these lack of activity calls, like we did last week with Stan, where, he's been on the market 45 days, nothing's really happened. Oh, by the way, Stan got himself an offer. Haha, ran the 1-2 punch. Stan got himself an offer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the last episode, episode 30. I deep dived one of my sellers who was rattling my cage about not getting enough action. So anyway, when a seller complains about a lack of action, I always suggest the 1-2 punch: midweek price reduction followed by a short Saturday open house. Why do sellers push back? Because some do. So I don't want to have an open house. Well, why not? Well, all you get's nosy neighbors, tire kickers, looky-loos. That's all you get. Okay, well, first of all, I doubt that that's true. I doubt that all you get are people who aren't looking for houses. I say, bring them in. Bring me all of your tire kickers, all your looky-loos, all your nosy neighbors. I want them all in that house, because guess what? A real buyer can't tell the difference between a looky-loo and a real buyer. They can't tell the difference between a fake buyer and a real buyer. So put them all in the same room together and see what happens. Because I'd rather have an open house with one real buyer and 10 fake buyers than one real buyer and nobody else. That's a whole different scene. There's no buzz in a house at an open house that has nobody else in it. Nosy neighbors have big mouths and they know everybody. So if they like your house, they're going to talk about it. They're going to go down to the coffee shop and they're going to have lunch. Oh man, I just looked at 123 Main Street and oh, they did the cutest kitchen update. Oh man, you should see that backyard. This is what they do. They run their mouth. They have to have some stuff to talk about. So let them come in and let them talk about your house, because it's free and it works. They may stumble across somebody who's actually looking in your neighborhood who, for whatever reason, missed your house. Maybe they scrolled past it for whatever reason. Who knows? And then this nosy neighbor with the big mouth says something, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what? Well, I better take another look at that house. Because we're looking for something that has a loft. We're looking for something that has a man cave. We're looking for something that has a finished garage. All stuff that maybe didn't come through. Who knows? So to recap this whole thing, you're going to advertise the property. You're going to delay showings for a couple of days. This is initially. Your first open house is going to be short, early on Saturday, unless it's an open house against an Ohio State football game. Then you don't do it. You're going to be consistent. If you're eager to sell the house, you don't get what you want on the first run, you're going to wait a week, you're going to wait 2 weeks, you're going to midweek lower the price, Wednesday or Thursday, let all the alerts happen. A couple of days later, you're going to announce an open house, let all the alerts happen again. You're going to use the sign-up sheet during the open house. You're going to do the things I talked about, looking busy when they walk in, asking the 1 or 2 questions on the way out, cool as a cucumber. You're going to hang on to that sheet. You're going to do your follow-up, and if nothing happens from the follow-up, you're going to save it until you get an offer. When you get your first offer, you're going to say, hi, this is Glen at 123 Main Street. You came to my open house a while back. We're negotiating an offer. I wanted to let you know in case you were thinking of making a move. Either way, best of luck. You're going to use that line. You get the house under contract, save those open house sheets, save those names and numbers, because sometimes deals die. If that happens, you're going to run another whisper campaign. I did a whole episode on rebounding a property after inspection or appraisal or whatever. The process works. The rebound playbook works. In there, I talk about doing a whisper campaign of everybody who came to your open houses and everybody that looked at it. You're going to keep those until your moving day. When you're closed and moving, you can get rid of those numbers. Not until then. So the next time somebody tells you that open houses are a complete waste of time, you're going to know the real. And if you do it right, you can create a lot of competition. You can create a sense of urgency, maybe even get a feeding frenzy going. And at a minimum, you're going to get valuable feedback. Sellers want feedback. They want feedback after showings. They want feedback after an open house. Well, here's your feedback. If you didn't get an offer, that's all the feedback you need. Trust me on this. So if you get nobody showing up at your open house, you get no offers from the people that do show up, you're priced too high. You can wait, or you can lower your price and run the 1-2 punch. Well, I think we've deconstructed this myth enough. Be sure to tune in the future for more peeks behind the curtain of all the real estate BS out there. And with that, I'll let you get back to your day. Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you learned something, maybe had some fun. If so, please share this episode with somebody privately or on the socials. Feel free to tag me if you do. The Talking Realty podcast is brought to you by Associates, Title, and the Ohio Property Group. a family-owned brokerage serving all 88 Ohio counties with realtor services. By the way, if you have topics, you have questions, you have guests you would like to see and or hear on this podcast, I would love to hear from you, which, by the way, you could see every one of these podcasts. If you like video, go to YouTube, check out my YouTube channel. Every one of these episodes is on there. You can say hi to me face to face. Just head over to talkingrealty.com, say hello, tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, keep making smart moves in your real estate journey. For the Ohio Property Group, this is Glen signing off. And remember, you can sell it. We can help.